I'd like to do today, I think this is potentially one of the most valuable, and I'll say this many times, but I think this is one of the most valuable understandings that we can arrive at. If you can get this, you'll make an enormous leap toward stress prevention, okay? If we were to remember our diagram, so we have, here's our homeostasis for the stress response, and then we have an event here, either in our environment or, well, usually in our environment. And what did we call this event? So we have the fight or flight response here. What did we call this right here, this event? Yeah, we have the event, and we turn it into a perceived threat. We have the perception that we're in danger, right? The uh-oh thought. So what we're going to play with today, Thursday, and next week, plays with this place right here of kind of preventing that from happening. When we forget, you know, and when we have the stress response on, we need ways to turn it off. That's relaxation. That's a lot of the other things we'll play with. But prevention happens from here. Stopping the stress response or preventing it from happening in the first place, that's the wiser way, in my mind. But we haven't been trained to think in these ways. Now, we decided that all stress begins with a, what? Was the first thing on that list, what? A thought. It doesn't start with what's happening out there. It starts with the thought of, uh-oh, I'm in danger. Something bad happened or could happen or is likely. And so the stress response turns on because we've created that perception of threat. Now, how, again, reminder, or what do you call that when you review? What percentage of our stresses are real? What? Less than 1%. So if less than 1% of the incidences that we find ourselves in are truly honest to goodness, life-threatening or painful, then the other 99% must have something to do with how we're thinking. And that's what we want to play with today. Okay? Now, we start by asking, in any situation that we find ourselves in, we can immediately ask ourselves 3 questions, and by answering them accurately, we can immediately, I mean, we'll play with this idea all day today, but we're going to start with, what can we do in any situation and immediately prevent that stress response from activating? So we can ask ourselves these questions, and depending upon how we answer them, will determine whether the stress response activates. So, the first thing we can ask ourselves in any situation, doesn't matter what it is, we can ask ourselves, am I in danger here? And what I mean by that is, am I in physical danger where I could get hurt or die? And what is the answer to that? No. 99.9% of the time, we're not in danger. If you say that to yourself, and you have to consciously talk to yourself and say, oh, I guess I'm not in danger. Your body listens and goes, oh, okay, I guess I don't have to turn on any juices to try to get out of here. You're taking a test. Am I in danger? Of course not. Okay? Second question is, can I handle this? Bless you. Can I handle this without dying or having physical pain? Now, what do you think is the right answer to that question? Most of the time. How do you know? Where is a place that you can immediately look to tell if you can handle this? Just think logically. Let's say you're in a test situation. Let's go to the test again. So you're taking a really important test. And you notice yourself starting to get, anxious or nervous or whatever. And you say to yourself, am I in danger? Well, I guess not. Can I handle this? You said, absolutely, but how do you know? How do you know that you can handle this without dying how can you be absolutely sure? Yes. Your past experience says, I've done hundreds. How many tests have you taken? Thousands? I once took a test, really. It was 9 questions, 9 hours long. Seriously. We had 1 hour to do each question, and we had to unload on the computer everything we knew. This was kind of the top of the mountain when you're climbing the PhD world. We studied this for a year. Seriously, we studied for this test for a year. And you would see people, it was so funny to watch people who were going to school with me, they would become addicted to this or that drug, or caffeine for sure. They would lose friends. We saw people get divorced over this test because it was just stressing them out so much. It was just driving them crazy. And as I was doing this, I thought, I'm going to see if I can do this without any stress at all. Just for fun. I'm going to try. Because it was supremely important. As far as my career path was concerned, it was the most important test I had ever taken. And I thought, I'm going to do this stress-free. And so that's what I did, is I kept saying to myself over and over and over again, and I'll throw in the third one in a second, I kept saying to myself, am I in danger here? No, I'm not. I'm okay. I'm still, nothing is immediately going to harm me. Or even if I blow the test, I'm still going to be fine. I'll have to, it'll be tricky. I'll have to take it again in a year, maybe, if I decide to stay in school. But I thought to myself over and over again, how many tests have I taken? And some of them have been really important, graduate tests to get into the next level, graduate or tests just to pass junior high school and getting through college class. We've taken thousands of tests, and I have yet to see anyone die while they're taking the test or soon thereafter when they get the results. Now, they might deliberately, shoot themselves, but that's a different deal than there's a threat coming at them. Does that make sense for everyone? You're scared to death to ask somebody out on a date. Oh, jeez. I was always just scared to death to ask people out. And I would remember that back when we had the phones, the real phones, not the cell phones, and the ones that were connected to something. And I would just, I'd be so afraid. And then I would say to myself, I've asked people out before. Why would this be any different? I haven't died yet, so why would this be any different? Okay, I'm safe. And as soon as you say that to yourself, as soon as your system hears, okay, I'm safe, then it'll go, oh, okay, well, let's get on with this then, without the attendant introduction of the stress response. Does that make sense for everyone? But we have to accurately ask ourselves these questions. The third question that we can ask ourselves, which is the heart of the rest of this class, at least half of it, and the mind-body wellness class, it's 2/3 of that class. Can I think about this differently? Can I think about this differently? All right. So let's get into it a little bit today and play with this idea. Are you stuck to the way you think about anything? Is there somebody inside your head that's going, okay, you have to think this way about this? Advertisers would love that, wouldn't they? Oh, if I present to them this new car, they'll have no choice but to go buy it. But that's not happening. That's not the case for us. We have freedom to think whatever we want to think. So let's explore this idea of perception today. Because if this right here, what we're seeing, is a perceived threat, and you guys accurately said the operative word last week in that sentence is perceived, that's the most important component of that, then let's look at perceived as a word, the perception, and see how we can start manipulating things. And let's use some examples, okay? And as I'm doing this, just kind of think to yourself about your own situations and think, yeah, I guess I could think differently about this. So let's just use a few, and we could throw out there anything that any of us encounter, and it would be the exact same process we would do. So let's say that you're driving, and I'll bet this has happened for a few of you. You're driving on the road, and in your rearview mirror, you look in your rearview mirror and you notice that there's a police car. Ooh, that's a pretty sound. That's not the police car sound.
That's relaxing.
That was the nice police car sound. Wouldn't that be a good sound? Okay. So you have the other one where it's going, or the sound of the that you normally hear. So put yourself in that situation. Okay, everyone there, you're driving, you look in your rearview mirror, and you see that the cops' lights are going, sirens going. What is your first thought usually? What's your conditioned thought?
What did I do?
Okay, you might think that, but before that, you'll probably think what? Daggone. Or crap, or something, some thought will happen in your head that sounds like, uh-oh, right? And why do we have that thought? What is the thought based on? Of, and what, when we get pulled over, or we see somebody else get pulled over, what does that mean?
Trouble. You get tickets and fines.
And when you get tickets and fines, we have determined that that hurts, right? It doesn't really hurt, but we've decided it hurts nonetheless. There's nothing painful about giving money to somebody physically. We hate it, and emotionally, psychologically, drives us crazy, but we're still not in physical danger when the cop's behind us. We're actually one of the safest places we can be. So the cop pulls us over. Okay? Now, I'm not saying is it likely, but is it possible when that cop pulls up behind you and his lights are going, for you to not have that crap or whatever feeling, that thought that results in the feeling of ticked off or whatever? Is it possible?
Yes.
Some of us don't think so, I think. What else? Okay, so let's go with this. So the cop shows up and his lights are going and immediately you start going, oh man, what did I do? What other ways of thinking, what other things could you say to yourself when he is behind you that is different than, oh, this is going to hurt?
I would think like, hey, make sure you drive careful and look at all the rules.
While he's behind you?
Yeah, he hasn't pulled
Okay,
over
but
yet.
if he's right, you know he's on you. That you're the one you're dead meat, essentially. What could you say different than life's over?
Well, I've actually had this happen a couple times, and a lot of times I know I didn't do anything wrong. I'm like, oh, maybe I've got a tail light out. Just pull over, he comes up and, what's wrong, officer? Because you know you weren't doing anything wrong. He goes, oh, we have a license plate light out. Okay, I'll go
Okay.
fix. Thanks for letting me know.
So your thought, instead of, oh crap, could be, what a nice guy. He's just watching out for my safety, and he's here to help me make sure that I get everything so that it's a safe place. Okay? Now I know that sounds dumb.
But you can really do that.
You can.
Yeah.
What's another thing that you could think? Beautiful. And he's pretty nice looking. And so I'm gonna make an acquaintance here that who knows what can happen. I mean, who knows. But at least I get to what an opportunity for me to expand my relationships, my circle of influence. Okay, there's a different thing. Now, as dumb as that sounds, is that going to initiate the stress response? No. Okay, what other things could you think? How many of you what did you say?
Pretty lights.
What cute lights these got going. They just, they have
It's a party behind you.
Dance party.
It's the party bus.
Now, we laugh, but no stress response is going to happen when you have that thought. Now, sure, you may end up still having to pay some money to somebody who doesn't need your money more than you do, but you still... Do you know what I mean? You don't have to have... How many times has this happened for you where you're driving along and you see him right behind you? Happens on Harrison all the time, where he's right behind you, and then you pull over and he zooms on by. Isn't that the greatest? Isn't that the greatest feeling of all? It is the greatest feeling. But you could think that in the first instance, couldn't you? You could think, oh, it's not me. He's after somebody else, I'm sure. And so you pull over and...
You have that mentality of when he's after you, too.
What?
I'm saying that if he's behind you, you say, oh, he's on after me. And he's like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, whatever. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keep on driving now, he's on after me.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Let's use another situation. Let's say that you're driving. Does anyone live in the valley over in the Eden, Huntsville area? Does anyone here live over there? Does everyone know where I'm talking about when I say the Huntsville area? You're not familiar with? So if you go up Ogden Canyon and you get to the reservoir, the Pine View, and then there's some beautiful towns over there. Really beautiful area. So let's say, for the sake of this story, that you live over there, okay? That you're, let's say you live in Huntsville, and you're coming through Ogden Canyon. There's really no other way. I mean, you could go up through the North Ogden Divide, but that would take a really long time. You're trying to get to school, and you've got a test to take here at school, okay? And if you're late for the test, you don't get to take it, and there's no makeup or anything. Well, he hasn't said that that's the case, but you have to be on time, okay? So you're driving through Ogden Canyon. Has anyone in here not driven through Ogden Canyon? Okay, it's a single lane. I mean, it's like one lane, the other lane, and there's nowhere through the whole thing that you can possibly pass somebody. It's like bold lane, and because it's too many curves, and if you try to pass somebody, except for a couple places, it's really dangerous. Somebody could be coming up the other way, and you're dead if you do. So anyway, you're driving down the canyon, okay? You only have enough time. You've figured out your time so that if you go at a certain speed, you'll make it to the test right on time. As you're driving, a really old guy in a really old, big Cadillac pulls out in front of you. Okay? And he's driving the same direction as you, but he's not in a hurry at all. He probably hasn't been in a hurry for years. And he's driving down. You've seen this guy. He's everywhere. His little head's just sticking over the steering wheel. And he's driving, and suddenly he's in front of you, okay? And there ain't no way you're getting around him because it's too dangerous driving down there. What's the conditioned response that we would have as that happens? And I'm not saying natural, it's conditioned. We've learned this response.
Horn.
What?
Horn monkey.
Okay, you might start, but he can't hear you because he's old. So he's probably got his stereo on some classical channel, and he's listening, and he's going at his own pace. So there's no way he can hear you. So what other natural, or not natural, conditioned responses do we usually both think and do in that instance? So you're right on his tail, and he doesn't know because he can't see the rearview mirror. So there's no way he can tell that you're behind him. Okay?
Fort Knox is driving slow.
Yeah, you're
Right, you're getting all ticked off. And why?
Because you didn't prepare for this anomaly.
Something is going to be really bad real soon if you don't take that test. And all the while you're thinking about it, you're getting more and more, you're grabbing the steering wheel, and you're just about ready to have a myocardial infarction because you're so going to blow this test and the class as a result. So you'll have to take, say it's math over again, and you don't want to because you hate math anyway. You know, it's coming to a blow, okay? Now, is it possible, not saying it's likely, is it possible to think of that in a different way than the conditioned way of, this is so bad, and you're riding him, and all the way down the canyon, it's about 7 miles or so, isn't it, to get from one end to the other, and you're just, by the time you get to Harrison, you're just flying up the hill, and you can barely think of anything, and whatever you had to remember is gone. Because you're still ticked off at that guy. If you have the chance to take the, okay, so let's say you're behind him again. How could you think about that, really? How could you think about that differently so that the stress response is not happening in your physiology?
like, okay, well, this really sucks, but now I have time to study more and maybe think about what's on my test, and then when I get out of the canyon behind this guy, we'll go and we'll make up for lost time.
So you're making plans, and you're using that slow time to think about what else you could try to recall that you'll need to have on the test. Okay, Pythagorean's theorem was a squared. Okay, let's see, let's apply a, because you can't, I mean, you don't have to worry about driving too carefully because you're going so slow. So you've got plenty of time to think. Okay, so there's one thing that you could think about. How else could you think about this?
When I get in situations like that, I like to stop myself and think about, is there anything that I can do? Like, in this moment, is there anything I can do to change the situation in my favor? In that situation, there's not. You're behind the guy.
Right.
So you just gotta let it happen. You know, it's unfortunate, but there's nothing you can do. So don't do anything. Relax.
So but what you're still having to think. Your thoughts are always going. So you're saying just relax by thinking what differently than what?
Turn on some good
Beautiful. So now I have a chance to really, but yeah, since you can't pick up any radio stations through there, you finally your chance to listening to your MP3 stuff. So you throw it on there and you sing and just enjoy it, right? This is an opportunity to really enjoy, that's mine. There's another thing you could think about. Man, going 20 is way different going through here. This is a gorgeous place. How wonderful it is that I get to have this opportunity. I don't get this opportunity too often to enjoy driving through here. You have that choice.
Tell them it's fake.
Yeah.
Tell the people that
I love seeing people take pictures of the waterfall.
That comes out of the pipe? Yeah. It's the most beautiful, almost waterfall. Okay. Could you think something else? Rita stretching or scratching? Well, what could you think? Corey, right?
Yeah, I was thinking actually the scenery thing is what
Yeah.
was thinking. I don't know, stop and smell roses for a while, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe this is God saving me from a horrible car wreck.
Bingo. See, how many times has this happened to you? And I don't know how many times it's happened for me where I'm driving along and I'm behind a really slow dude and then suddenly, and I'm getting all upset because I know I've got to be somewhere, of course, and up ahead there's a cop that's pulled somebody over. And I think, man, if I'd have been going fast,
You'd be
that would have been me. Yeah. Or I could have been in an accident. I've seen accidents that I've missed by a minute or two and thought, man, thank you for car angels or whoever's in charge of this road to keep me from being part of that accident. Absolutely. Now you're just making it up. But here's the thing that I know to be true. Because we say, well, you're just making stuff up. Well, let's go through the worst possible scenario let's go through likely and then worst possible scenario. Let's say you miss the test, or maybe you're late for work. Same deal. What's the worst likely outcome that you'll have to encounter as a result of being late for the test? What's the very worst?
You get to go home and relax and spend that 2 hours figuring out
Okay,
what to do.
that's not so bad. But is there anything possibly worse that could happen? Okay, you might fail. Is that likely? How many professors have you been late for who they say, well, too bad, you lump it and the classes, you're too bad. I saw hands. What's the likely thing that you'll have to deal with there? Yeah, you'll have to make it up somehow. Most teachers are reasonable, I think.
Have to do maybe a little bit extra work to resolve.
Yeah, you might have to do something. You got yourself, by not planning for the old guy, you got yourself into a situation that you might have to work around the natural consequences of being late. And is that going to kill you? I have yet to see that happen. Now, here's the thing, is we make up these worst possible outcomes. We make it, oh man, the worst thing that can happen is I'm going to fail the class and I'll probably not get the job I want, and so we won't be able to support my family, and then, man, I'll probably be on the streets, and we go through that whole thing, we're making that up entirely. 100% of that we're making up. We don't know while we're driving if that's going to be the outcome that we'll encounter. We don't know for sure, but we make it up to be that way. We put the worst possible scenario in our heads, and then our body, that's what it hears, and so it's, oh my gosh, full time. Corey?
I learned this like years ago. I don't always adhere to it and follow it real well. I find myself getting caught up, in what you're describing, but the truth is rarely in the appearance of things.
Very rarely. Very, very rarely. As far as the truth of a future event, especially when you're thinking of a future event and creating the likely outcome. Rarely. I mean, what's the number one social fear in this country? Public speaking. People are more afraid. There's been surveys that have shown that people are more afraid of standing in front of a group of people and talking. I think singing is more, the public singing would scare me worse. But people are more afraid of public speaking than dying. On some surveys I've seen, I'd rather die than have to get up in front of a group of people. Now, when you're thinking of being in front of a group of people, what are you making up about that group of people that makes it so it's fearful?
They're going to hate me if I don't do this right.
Yeah, you're making up all kinds of things about their judgments about you. You have no way of knowing, first of all. And even if they did, that can't really... Who was our singers? We had...
Oh, I didn't sing.
You came up, and who was the other who... That's right. You two came up, and we had you guys think all kinds of mean things about them. Or not. But they have no way of knowing. So what I'm saying is, we totally make it up. What those uh-oh things are going to be. We totally make it up. And if we understand that, we can totally make up something just as non-stressful. Oh, there's a party behind my car. You can make that up just as bad as my life is over. You have that choice. I remember on one occasion I was playing in a baseball tournament, a softball tournament. It was a co-ed league, and I'm not really fond of co-ed leagues, but these guys asked us to play in it. And I usually don't take it. I rarely take softball very seriously, but I played a lot in my life. And we were playing in a game where we were behind most of the game, and we got to the last inning, and we came back. And we got to bases loaded, and there were 2 outs, and I'm up to bat, and we're down by 1 point. So if I hit a ground ball anywhere, if I hit a base hit anywhere, the guy from second and third will for sure score and we win. Okay? That was the situation I was in. I played a lot of baseball in my life. I had offers to play college baseball. I'm pretty good. I'm not being bragging, but that's the level of baseball I've played in my life. So I get up to bat, and the pitch comes, and I swing, ground ball to third base. The guy came and touched the bag. Game over. We lost. Okay? I was furious. I don't know why, but I was so mad at myself. Why couldn't I? All I have to do is hit a line shot up the middle or something. Why did I hit it to the third baseman? I kept going through, and I found myself getting angrier and angrier about that past event. What could I have thought differently instead of, for the next half hour, because we had a game right after that, interestingly enough, I mean, that's added to the story. What could I have thought differently about that situation than, man, I screwed up and I messed up for our team, and all these thoughts that were making me just anxious? What else could I have thought differently? It's over. Nothing I can do about it. Okay, there's one thing. What else?
There's been a few situations where I've had to laugh at myself.
So how could I have done that? What would that sound like in my head?
Well, isn't it ironic that, I'm pretty talented
And I'm the one who blew the game when all the rest of the wives were the ones who were getting on base. That is an irony. Good one. That would just tick me off more. Yeah. What a great play that. I mean, it was a pretty hard shot that I hit. Down the third base line, he had to move a little to his, and he had to come up with the, it was a tough play. Nice job, So good. How could I have laughed, I'm not that great after all. You need a little humility, Mike. Good job. What else could I have thought? Okay, it's over.
Maybe we need to do better to begin with and be ahead, so it's not all the stress.
Yeah, good. So planning, doing some strategery, as Bush said. What else could I have thought? I mean, let's keep going with this.
What about thinking about the other guys? Because it's always our team that deserves to win, but we should be happy that
It's their turn
they-
to win.
Yeah, that we were.
We want a balance here in winning. We don't want to win them all. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they were working just as hard as
Yeah.
we were, so
They deserve to win that. They played a great, beautiful. That's a good one. What else?
Most games are a lot more fun to play than you're totally winning.
Yeah, or totally losing.
Yeah, we're totally losing.
Good one.
9-1.
What did you think?
it's just a game.
Yeah, and nobody cares.
It's for fun anyway.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a game, and when my 4-year-old plays a game and it's over, he doesn't think about, well, how did I do with that truck when I was putting him up the hill? Did he come? I don't know. He just gets over. He's on to the next thing. It's just a game. I should treat baseball the same way. It's just a game, and nobody's going to remember that I grounded out. It's a 7-inning game. Lots of other people got out. All of these things I could think in my head that would keep me from getting all ticked off about it. And we can do that in any situation. Have you ever been in a traffic jam and be late? You're in a traffic jam, you have no control over anything that's going on, and you're stuck there. What else could you think? I mean, it's the same as the old guy when we're behind him.
Just call your boss, be like, hey, I was planning for this, and there's an accident up ahead of me. I'm going to be, and then it takes the stress off
Yep.
because it gives you an extra.
So you not only can you think accurately, but you can take proactive action that will diminish the waves, the ruffles of what's coming up. Absolutely. Take proactive action. Okay? Let me think. So let me ask you guys this. In situations that you've been in recently, well, somebody give me a stressful situation and let's help each other out with how could we have thought of that one a little differently. Anyone? Had something that happened?
I went golfing with my boyfriend, and it was like a huge tournament, and like the winner gets like $1,000, and it's like $150 buy-in, and he like usually shoots really well, and then he gets stressed when he plays, and so I was going with him, and he was like getting really pissed because he did really bad on home, and he just started getting worse and worse. I didn't want to say like anything.
So it didn't matter what you were doing. He didn't like how he was playing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the thought? Remember, and I'll do this 1,000 times. We have to realize or keep in mind the stress starts from our thoughts, not from the golf game. It starts with our thoughts about the golf game, not the golf game. How do we know that? I'll get back to that in just a sec. But how do we know that it's not the golf game that is causing the stress to your boyfriend? And that it is his thoughts about it and not the golf game itself.
You could go golfing every weekend just as a relaxation and do really well. But the second I got to get that $1,000,
He's made up that $1,000 means something different. Yeah.
just having fun.
Okay. How else can we be absolutely sure that it's not the golf game. Remember last time I said no event is inherently stressful. No event that I can find causes everyone who does that to feel stress. How can we tell?
Golfing is like an inanimate object that you can't really affect you. You let it affect you. It's like a kid when the parent says, oh, he's testing me. Your 4-year-old doesn't really have the capacity to be like, oh, I'm going to push mom to the point of break.
Yes, yes. Exactly, exactly. I went golfing, was it last week? Last Monday, I went golfing, a week from yesterday. And when I go golfing, I never keep score. I don't think it's an important thing to keep score. I love to golf. I mean, I par holes every now and then. I can hit, I can hit it pretty well. But I never, it's just one of those things where, what'd you get? I don't know, I got a 5 or a 7. It doesn't matter to me. I hit it it went in the hole. We had a fun time walking. I love that quote by Mark Twain. Have you ever heard that quote about golf? He said, golf is a nice walk in the park ruined. So, and the reason, what's your name?
Alyssa.
Alyssa. So, the reason why, now when you were golfing with him, did you yourself get stressed about the holes you were golfing? Like, you were missing or hitting great shots or whatever? Did you find yourself getting anxious?
I was watching because it was a tournament.
Oh, you weren't playing too. You weren't going along. You were just driving the cart or something. Okay, so when you golf with your boyfriend, so you're golfing the exact same holes, do you find yourself getting anxious about, you slice it a little or you hook it in a little, and do you find yourself going, oh, geez.
Not really.
No.
I kind of just started, and so I would get more happy when I do good instead of now when I do bad.
Yeah. See, and that tells me it's not the fairway, it's not the tee shot, it's not the putting it in the hole, it's our thoughts about it that are creating the anger that he's having. Because there might be other people who can do the exact same thing and have nothing go on. So that's why I say it always comes back. We have to realize it's not your boss that's making you stressed. It's not your teacher who's making you stressed. It's not school. People say, well, school just stresses me out. Well, show me, like you said, which building? Which building has the power to stress you out? Or what?
Before you pay your bill.
That's stress.
They have stress emitters today.
Could you think about that differently? Let's go with that, and then we'll hit you too. So you're paying your bill. Is there a different way that you could think about that besides, crap, more of my money going to them? Okay, which you're a part of. Yeah, this is an investment in me. Now, again, focus on this. If you eliminate the uh-oh thought, you're going to be fine. Now, you'll still have to pay money and you'll still have to do all the stuff, but I'm thinking in terms of the stress response not happening for you, you have to eliminate the threat, the perception of the threat. And as soon as you eliminate that, you can do everything you do peacefully. You'll still have to do it, but the thing that I have found is you'll do it better. You'll do it and people will like you. I hate driving in cars when people are so anxious about drivers. Every state I've lived in, that state has the worst drivers, or according to people who I'm driving with. Man, Illinois drivers are the worst drivers in the world. California drivers are the worst drivers. And I never see those guys. those worst drivers. Everyone's just the same. I don't make up in my head that these guys are terrible drivers. I just let it pass. I realize people drive how they do. Go ahead.
To your point, but when the situation has been really inherently stressful as divorce, there's no matter how you look at it, there's always bad.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm not saying it's not a big deal. I'm not saying it's not important. Is it possible, though, for somebody to go through a divorce and not have the thought of, uh-oh, I'm in physical danger, I could die here? I'm not saying it's not a big deal for everyone involved. Absolutely it is. And I know people who, through the divorce and afterwards, are happier. You know, that things are better. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. You know, if you need to be all emotional about it, then that doesn't make you any worse than the person who goes through it happily. What I'm saying is you do have a choice about how you think about every situation. As bad as it might seem, you still have a choice, and you can think about it differently if you want to. I mean, really, I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and there's been people who have been in divorces who tell me the whole way through they were so grateful. They were so thankful. They were so happy that that was not, that he or she was no longer in the picture. And it was better for the kids now that the situation was different. I mean, it's entirely how we interpret it. Corey?
I was just going to say, I don't know if it's going to go a little deeper maybe than what you want the discussion to go, but it looks to me like a key ingredient is we've been conditioned to place blame on things outside of us. And so, like the old guy in the car, we're blaming him for being late when actually if we left 20 minutes earlier, we'd have a better chance of being on time.
Yeah.
Or the golf swing, you know, it's my club, I have a problem with, you know, blaming it on my club or the fairway or whatever. Well, if you would go to the driving range a little more time than your form, maybe you'd have better results. And it comes back to us, it's taking responsibility for those thoughts.
And on Thursday, we will explore that very thing on a much deeper level. Because, yes, until we understand that all of our emotions, see, this is how this is set up. Consider any emotion you've had recently that you would term as a bad emotion or a painful or a yucky emotion. How did you arrive at that emotion? Every single time, how did you arrive at that emotion? Analyze this for just a second. Take yourself back to that situation. Okay, I hit the grounder to third, and now the game's over. And so now the emotion I have is anger. What was it that always preceded the anger? Well, there was an event, but there's something that followed the event. What? A thought. A choice, yes. We have a thought, and that initiates the emotion. It's never the other way. And what Corey's saying is, we've said, society says the event causes the emotion. Right? That's what you're saying. And it's never that way. How can we be so sure of that?
The coffee that lady smoothed McDonald's over didn't naturally fall into her lap. She just didn't hold on to it.
So, okay, fill me in on this, because I'm not...
She didn't hold it because it's a hot coffee, and it fell into her lap, and then she goes, oh, it's McDonald's fault. The coffee was hot. So she blamed something else when it was actually...
Did she get burned?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she won.
She asked
Sued
for
him.
it to be reheated 3 times, and then she stuck it right in the middle of her lap, and then she was driving and spilled, and it
Burned her.
seared, totally fused.
Well, see, in that situation,
Yeah.
you have a physical pain going on there, but her thoughts about how bad McDonald's is, I don't disagree, is based on her thoughts about it, how she's interpreting. See, this is our interpretations. And this is what leads to the emotion 100% of the time.
Thoughts become the reality.
Yes.
If you're thinking that I am going to die from this test, or that I'm going to fail this test, I'm going to be late for this test, then there's a good chance you're going to be late or die or fail from it.
True. And that's a slightly even more deep level of thinking that is interesting. How many times have you seen people who think to themselves, man, I just know, people are sneezing and coughing, I just know I'm going to get the flu. I just know it's flu season, so I just know I'm going to get the flu. And pretty soon, they find themselves with the flu.
Well, they tell their bodies, I'm going to get this.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
until the body.
When we play with the subconscious mind a little later on, we'll explore why that happens and how powerful that part of us is that can create those realities based on our dominant thoughts. It's really a fascinating discussion that we'll have a little later on. But yes, our dominant thoughts consistently create these realities, but they also create our emotions, and I have yet to find an exception.
I was going to say, in an event that's causing you negative emotions, you could look around and see other people that are experiencing the same thing and the way they're handling it. A lot of times there will be examples of people around you that are maybe doing a little bit more healthy with their emotions in similar events.
So what would be an example of that? Let's take poverty. Let's take, something we think is just, I couldn't possibly handle having no money to take care of things. Right? Are there people in the world who actually kind of prefer it that way? Yeah. I'm not putting a judgment on one way or the other. I kind of like to have the lots of money around myself, but that's just me. But I know plenty of people who actually prefer the minimalist lifestyle, that prefer having not very much, kind of the idea, if I don't have much, I don't have much to worry about mentality. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's another? I mean, think of the hijackers. Okay, we'll go to like really extreme. What's going on in the heads of the people who rammed into the 9/11 towers 10 years ago? Yeah, this is the greatest thing that could possibly happen for me, the most bold, the most righteous thing that I could possibly do, and there's 72 waiting for me afterwards, after this is over, and that's pretty nice. It's entirely the perception that they're making up that is creating the emotion or driving this, well, I'm feeling good about this dying thing. Most of us, when we think of dying, we think, no, I don't think that's a good, fun thing. But plenty of people kind of, my grandpa, he looked forward to the day that he could die because he was had enough of being here. And he had the belief, whether it's accurate or not, I'm not 100% sure, I'm mostly sure, but he had the belief that there was something next, that there was another next thing going on, and he wanted to be there instead of here. So dying for him was, man, it's going to be great. Now, I have no idea how accurate that is, But the belief he made up about it made him so that dying was not a stressful situation at all for him. What other things could we throw out here? I mean, I know I'm laboring this point, but we have to get in our heads, we're doing it to us. The stress that we have is our doing. It's not our moms or dads or our teenagers or our dogs. You know, let's say I had a cat once, threw up on everything. And I hated this cat. Could I thought about this cat differently than getting angry at it?
Maybe you're stripping your cat out.
Well, at least I get new furniture.
See, those are good possible other ways. Maybe I need to look at how I am with the cat.
I hated that
Some self-analysis. Good one. I like that. Or good, I get it, since I hate this furniture anyway, I'll get some leather stuff that you can clean off when it pukes all the time.
There's something better waiting on the other side for the cat.
Yeah, let's send the cat to kitty heaven. I can be proactive about this too. Yes. Can anyone think of any other situation? We use the golf one.
Important paperwork. When you send it, they expect you to deliver, and it doesn't happen.
Give an example. What do you mean by that? Could be
So I took a club test and told them to send the paperwork to the college I was attending at the time so they could put it on my transcript so I could transfer up here. Well, I didn't get my associate's degree because they lost the paperwork. And so I come up here to try to register for classes and I can't because they don't have any records of it. So I'm on the phone calling, trying to figure things out. Bonkers.
Okay. You chose to drive yourself bonkers. Remember what we're saying here is, okay, well, let's think about how we could have thought that differently. But what we're trying to move ourselves into is the thing didn't drive him bonkers. That's this. It was his interpretation of it that he had a choice about that made him be bonkers. I know nobody, outside of this class, people will still say, well, that teacher she just ticked me off. And okay, you know what they're saying, but really, you did it to yourself. So, how could you have thought about this differently such that bonker making didn't happen?
You could say like you have a lot of students, so there's a lot of paperwork that they have to go through.
Yeah.
So it might be easy for them to misplace.
Okay,
And
no threat there.
a lot of
That's a
people
good
have
thought.
the same name too, so
Lots of people have the same name. What's your name? I never heard of that name before. Michael Smith. That is an unusual one. So, okay, what else could Michael Smith have thought in this situation?
Forward, rather than dwelling on what has happened, I'm going to think we should go forward.
Yes.
I get to enjoy these classes
What?
again.
There you go. I might get to have this opportunity to expand my knowledge or solidify, crystallize what I've already learned even more clearly. That's just as unlikely as bad things are going to happen. Sounds like it got worked out.
no,
It's still not worked out.
they still don't have the degree. I just managed to wiggle my way through classes.
So you still managed to work things out. Not dead. No physical pain. So that's how if you think that way, think, well, things will work out and I'll take the steps that I can, but I can still retain my equanimity. I can still retain my peacefulness through this. That's a choice we have. And as you understand that and you practice it, and the cool thing is you have the opportunity to practice this every darn moment of the day. Things will happen all day long that you can't do anything about. traffic jams, you're driving home and something weird happens, bam, there's an opportunity for you to choose differently how you're thinking about it and watch what doesn't happen. It's the most freeing thing that I know of when you start to get it, that I'm in control of my thoughts and therefore my emotions. So when somebody's yelling at me, I don't have to, I can choose how I'm thinking about this person yelling at me. She's just had a rough day. She can't help it. I mean, that's my latest one, when my kids come telling me about people who bug them or problems they have, and I say, you know, they can't help it. That's just how they are, and there's nothing. My one daughter plays a lot of sports, and she had a coach who would just yell at her and just yell at her. And she didn't deserve to be yelled at like that, and I tell her, he can't help it. That's just the way he is. He doesn't realize that he has control, and so he just unleashes, and the only thing that he leads a very stressful life, and when he comes to the games or comes to the practices, you become his way of unloading his stress. So in that way, you're doing him a favor by being his sounding board. Now when she heard that, she went, at first she was like, no, he's ticked off at me. I said, no, she's not. He's not. He's just got you to be the outlet for his really stressful life. And so don't take it personally. You can choose to think, this is how, he can't do anything about it. And as soon as she thinks that way, oh, okay, well then I'm doing him a favor, good. I'll be there for you, coach, kind of thing.
It's like no one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
It's that Eleanor Roosevelt, right? Yeah. No one can make you feel anything without your consent. Bored? You ever had professors who bore you? Like, here? Well, it's not my doing. I can't make you feel bored. The only thing I can do is create the event. You interpret it however you want. It's your boredom that creates that reality, or your thoughts about the situation that create that reality for you of the emotion of boredom. Nobody can make you angry. Nobody can make you anything. Now, I know you don't want to hear that because you're sure that that's what's you've been struggling with, is this terrible situation that you find yourself in from time to time. Well, now's your chance to start to sense that maybe you have some freedom over it. Yeah, you had a question or a thought? I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I'm sorry. Smart people don't get bored. There you go. And make yourself feel smarter, huh? I am so smart because I'm never bored if she was right. It's an interesting belief. Do you have any questions about that? Or does anyone have any contrary opinions or beliefs that doesn't apply to me? Do you know what I'm saying? Because every one of you, when we did that stressometer, said you were at a 6 or a 5 or above. Every one of us did. Oh, there was one person who said 3, I think. I don't remember. That was you who said a 3? Maybe a couple. So, here's... What? So, what we're starting to understand is, you know, it's the good news is you're getting it, that you made the 7, not anybody else. Until you get that, you'll always be at a 7. That I know for sure. But as soon as you start to understand this, you will find yourself going, oh, that's something that I usually would get upset about, but, you know, I can handle it. I'm not in danger. I'm okay. We'll deal with this in a peaceable way instead of a angry, stressed out way. And watch how that muscle develops over and over. So we're going to be playing with this. We'll finish this idea of perception off on Thursday, and then we're going to expand it a ton next week to really, so that you can almost plug in different ways of thinking in situations and watch how cool your stress stays at a very manageable level. Okay? Thanks everyone. Have a great today, and we'll see you next time.